Hi everyone, it's Matthew with Dr. Gene Technology, and today we're going to be talking about 3 interview strategies to help you get that next IT job. But before we move forward, be sure to click the subscribe button as well as the bell so that you're alerted anytime a new video comes out. Also, be sure to click on the link to join our community we call the IT Village, where you'll see others like yourselves and you can interact with other people from this channel and get answers to any questions you have. Be sure to click comments down below and submit your comments about what you like, what you don't like. That way we can tailor our content for you so that we can continue to move you along your IT career. So into the 3 interview strategies to get the next IT job. And I've been in a lot of interviews and I've really narrowed the scope down. You're going to get more than 3, but I've tried to keep it as digestible as possible. So let's get going. So first up, do your homework, do your research, and play what's called game theory. And by that, I mean anticipate the types of questions that they're going to ask of you. So, and that they're going to ask you as well. And so really understand that, every company has a different way of interviewing, different types of interview techniques. So you want to research the company is what it comes down to. And if you can research the company, you know that they might ask more questions about, for example, about their mission and values, or some other companies might ask more about upward mobility and how departments function, right? It really just depends on the company that you're trying to pursue to get a job with. So do your homework and anticipate the types of questions that they're going to ask by doing what's called game theory. And that is just that, right? Where you anticipate, you kind of already have some of the answers framed already. So for example, if they say, what do you want to do in the next 3 years? You already know, right? You already have that answer ready to go. So also, as you're doing your homework, you want to understand more about the culture of the company. So try to find out what kind of technology they work with, what's their terminology, right? I mean, while IT is the same around the world, at the end of the day, some people will call terms one thing versus another, right? So it's just a lot about acronyms. And that could be hard to know immediately if you're on the outside world trying to get into a company. But that's where doing the next piece of talking to someone who's held the job, whether it's been in that company or not, is always helpful. So if you don't know anybody, well, always go to LinkedIn or a blog or someone reach out to maybe somebody who can help you with understanding what that company might be about, right? So doing research before you even step into the actual interview is always helpful, right? The second strategy is the actual interview, right? So understand that a lot of companies and interviewers want to know what your thought processes are, right? They want to know how you think. And so by doing that, one of the best things to consider is if they ask you a question, repeat the question back to them and maybe add a little bit by framing the question by adding some parameters and say, do you mean X? Do you mean Y? Just to be sure that you are answering them in the exact way that they're looking for. But it also shows that you are thinking about it critically, called critical thinking, where you are not just going to blurt out an answer, but you will give them something that is based on how they're trying to maneuver the question around you, right? And so there may be one right answer, but at least you're showing them your thought processes. Other things to do are storytelling and give them solutions as you're answering. So for example, if you say, what went wrong with a particular project or what went so right with a particular project, right? Let them know, give them stories, right? I mean, you are there to impress them. So do so by giving them the best and worst case scenarios. And it really just depends on what the situation might be, right? You just never know what you're going to get asked. And a lot of this comes down to step one here is doing your research. So I'll give you an example one time. I was asked in an interview about what's the hardest thing I had to do regarding my management, or working with a manager in a time where I didn't agree with my manager on something. And I gave him a story where an individual came up to me as their manager, and essentially was telling me that my manager was not treating him right, even outside of work. And it was a really hard scenario to be in. This involved kind of sexual contact, that sort of thing. And obviously, if I'm being asked this, I'm probably in a leadership type of interview. But essentially, I gave him the story of I was approached by the student after 5-10 minutes fact finding with the worker. In this case, I then went to that person's boss immediately, and in closed doors told him what happened. That person then went down to the individual in question, which was my boss. And next thing you know, within 30 minutes to an hour, my boss was walking out the door with all of his stuff, just because of this one scenario, of this one issue. And so that's the story I gave in the interview. And it nailed it, right on the head, because it told them a story, some facts about a manager that was above me, and something very difficult. It put me in a very difficult spot, something I had to do. But we all know ethical training. We know exactly what to do in these kind of scenarios. I executed immediately, and for the most part, problem resolved, right? So that's storytelling and giving them a solution. And then, like we said, ask follow-up questions. So as they're asking you these questions, storytelling, you can keep following up, right? It's a dual interview. You interview them, they interview you. You can talk about any kind of training that they may provide, any upward mobility that may be able to be sought after if you're looking to climb the corporate ladder, so to speak. You can ask them what kind of technology they're using. If they're willing to answer, they'll tell you. That may be confidential. But in the interview, it just realized that the big ball of wax here is it's a two-way street, right? And keep it conversational as possible, and try to avoid dead airspace, which we talk about in another video. And lastly, follow up, right? So the interview is now done. You've done your homework. You've done your research like we've prescribed. You've gone through the interview process. Now what? Now you wait, right? It's kind of crunch time. Always send a thank you email. I usually do it the moment I get in front of my laptop. As soon as I have access to it, that email's gone. So that means be sure to get the contact parameters of the individual, such as their email or phone or what have you, before you leave, and thank them. Maybe you get a response, maybe you don't, right? If you don't get a response, let's just say after about a week and a half or 2 weeks, or they'll tell you, when they're thinking of hiring someone, and maybe immediate on the spot, maybe a week from now, 2 weeks. If you don't get a response, send one final email saying, hey, I thank you for your opportunity and the time. Any word on this position, right? And again, it's a two-way street. You don't want to be left hanging, so to speak, but it also shows that you still have interest and you're still interested in joining the organization that you interviewed for and the job that you're trying to get. So hopefully those 3 interview strategies will help you get the next IT job and secure your future. As a reminder, click the like button, leave us your comments, let us know what you'd like to hear more of. Also, click the subscribe button and the bell button so that you're immediately alerted anytime a new video is published. Be sure to join our IT Village, which is the link to communicate with others within our YouTube channel over on our platform, so that you can get answers to your questions. And lastly, in the upper right corner of our YouTube channel, click the free download of How Much Can I Make in IT?